Fabrice the Artist here, back with another Q&A video, and today I'm going to be reading off some questions off my Instagram story highlight that I didn't get to in my first Q&A video. So let's dive right into it. What is the best paper to use? To be honest, I guess I don't really know what the exact best paper is to use. I guess it would depend on what your goal is, what your style of drawing is, but in my personal experience with the tools that I use and the effect that I'm looking for, I would say a fine textured vellum paper would be the best. Okay, I've tried smooth paper and I hate it. I find that the charcoal just slips right off the page, and you honestly can't really do all the same techniques that you normally would. I have no control over like manipulating any of the medium on the page when I'm using smooth paper, so that's why I don't like it. Now, I tried it for my Joaquin Phoenix drawing, my Joaquin Phoenix as himself, not the Joker or Arthur Fleck, but it was way more difficult than it had to be. So I don't recommend smooth paper, maybe unless you're using like colored pencils or something. But for graphite and charcoal, I would stick to a fine textured vellum Bristol paper. And it's also important that it has enough weight to it, that it's thick enough. So Bristol is very important as well, so that you don't run into like the paper changing its shape as you complete the drawing, or that when you erase certain parts it doesn't rip through the paper. So get a paper that has some fine texture to it but isn't completely smooth. How many hours do you draw every day? I guess that varies from day to day, as I'm a personal trainer, so I don't always have the exact amount of time to put into my drawings. I try to commit at least 2 hours per day, either an hour before my sessions start that day or another hour or two when I get home at night. So I don't do really any marathon sessions of drawing almost ever. I might do like 4 or 5 hours in a day, maybe once a week on like a Sunday or something when I got nothing else going on and I can really dive into a drawing, which I'm super grateful for when those days come along. You can get a lot done doing 2 hours a day. That's 14 hours a week. Depending on how long a drawing takes you, you can finish one drawing every week, certainly every month, right? Most of you guys aren't spending 100 hours on a drawing, right? I'm not even spending 100 hours on a drawing. Mike Tyson took 92, but that was twice as long as any other drawing prior to it. Okay, so get into a routine, spend at least an hour or two a day. If you can't spend a lot of time, spend some time, and maintaining that habit is the most critical thing. Where do you get your reference pictures? Well, I get these just on Google Images by searching far and wide, just like any of you guys would do. So I don't have any secrets to finding reference pictures. It takes me sometimes days and sometimes weeks, sometimes never. I've been looking for pictures like Heath Ledger's Joker. I've been looking for, there's several drawings that I've been wanting to do now. Joe Rogan. Still haven't been able to find a good enough picture. So I'm doing the same thing that you guys are doing. Google Images, and it takes me hours and hours and hours usually to find a good enough reference picture, if I in fact ever do find it. But one tip that you guys can do is go into the advanced search settings on Google Images and go to minimum image size, right? And set it to either 2 megapixels or 4 megapixels. And this way you're going to filter out some of these really low quality like thumbnail pictures or pictures that are just really low resolution. Okay, so this isn't going to guarantee that you're going to get the only clear photos, right? A lot of high resolution photos that have a lot of pixels to them are still not clear enough. In fact, most of them aren't going to still be clear enough to use, but at least you're going to filter out some of those really low pixel, low resolution ones. What do you do profession-wise, or are you a full-time artist? Okay, so I just talked about how I'm a personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer for almost 10 years now. I'm not a full-time artist. Right now, I'm kind of working part-time as a personal trainer. My hours are dropping a little bit, which I am okay with because I'm spending most of the day right now working on my art career. So no, I'm not a full-time artist, but this is something that I am pursuing fully. Okay, so hopefully within the next year or two, I'll be able to answer this question again and be able to say full-time artist, and that is it. Or who knows, maybe I'll continue to be a personal trainer forever even if I don't have to, because I do really love it. What do you use when doing large, dark, black areas in your drawings? If I'm doing a solid black background, I'm typically using a General's 6B charcoal stick, then evening it out with my fingers. So blending with your clean finger, no oil on your finger, is a great way to blend in charcoal because it doesn't remove too much of the charcoal off. It actually kind of just blends it in without making it lighter. If you were to blend in that charcoal with a brush, you're actually going to make it lighter because you're lifting off a large layer of that charcoal. Okay. Have you ever thought to become a tattoo artist? Okay, I actually have thought about this. Okay, I used to be super into tattooing and for like a few months, a few years ago. Now I don't have any tattoos, as you might be able to see, but I don't have any tattoos anywhere. But I used to watch Ink Master, and this was when I was taking a break from drawing, and I was like super into this. And I even applied to be an apprentice at a local tattoo parlor in Antigonish, which is another town a couple hours away from where I live here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I had a couple crazy friends that actually let me tattoo them, and my first ever tattoo was a Super Mario character on my friend's back. And I didn't even use a stencil, so I mean, it wasn't super great tattoo for my first time ever using a tattoo gun. I hadn't even practiced on pigskin at this point or anything like that. So that's a little interesting story. I've done 5 tattoos in total, and then I decided never to do it again. I gave my tattoo kit back to my friend and let her have fun with that. So I don't ever want to do that again, but it was fun. Can you please tell me how you edit your artwork images? Which app you use for that? I like to err on the side of minimal editing, okay? If you take a good enough picture, you're not going to have to edit it that much at all right now. So what I would recommend is maybe adjusting the contrast a little bit, or bringing the shadows down a bit, increasing the highlights a bit, just to make it look a little bit more accurate to the real drawing. But I just get them professionally scanned every single time. It costs me like 35 Canadian dollars every time to get a drawing scanned, which to me seems worth it because they do such an amazing job to capture the details and all the proper values and stuff, like especially for my detailed drawings like the Mike Tyson portrait. There's no way I could have taken a picture of that and edited it to make it look like the ones you guys see on my Instagram. Like, that was a professionally scanned image that they actually did the editing for me, and they did an amazing job. But if you're looking to touch up some of your images, I would maybe download an app like Polish, and it's very basic and free, but it does the job, right? The saturation, the shadows, the highlights, just simple stuff like that. You can adjust the tint. I would recommend editing it a little bit before uploading it into the Instagram app, but the Instagram app works pretty good for that too. But I've run into some issues where I spend like an hour editing a post before posting it, and as soon as I post it, it runs into an error and deletes all my progress. So that really pisses me off. So from now on, I just edit outside of the Instagram app, and then we'll post the edited version straight away. What is a growth hack for artists on Instagram who can't post every day? Why can't you post every day? You should try to post something every day. But if you feel like you don't have anything that you can post every day, then that's fine. Post like every second day, right? It doesn't have to be every day. Just don't let weeks go by where you aren't posting something. right? Because I don't think that that's probably very good for engagement. Your followers are going to be like, where the hell where did he go? And I don't really know too much about the algorithm of Instagram, but I have a good feeling that posting that infrequently is going to not be favorable for your engagement, in the sense that when you do finally post, it's probably not going to reach as many of your followers because the algorithm deems your page to be inconsistent. And honestly, I think that that's a very important thing to touch on. Is I think you guys just need to post what makes you guys feel good, what you guys enjoy. Alright, if I'm posting a reel on Instagram with my Mandalorian progress and I choose this music, or what, it's only because I think that song is awesome, and it's not because I think that song is popular and will get a bunch of views. Right? Everything you guys see me post on my Instagram is because I personally think that it's really cool from my perspective, right? Like, I mean, a lot of you guys might not think that it's cool, or it might not be that perfect catchy thing for the engagement, but anyway, post what makes you happy and don't even worry about it. But I would say post more regularly than not. The type of paper you use, does it determine the quality of your drawings? I would say that using a good paper isn't going to make your drawing good, but using a bad paper can make your drawing bad. Okay, so think about it as like, imagine that you were a tennis player and you had a amazing racket, but you kind of sucked at tennis. Well, using a good racket isn't going to make you a good tennis player. But if you're a elite tennis player and you're using a $10 shitty racket, like, that's gonna really hold you back because your potential is up here and your racket is way down here, and it doesn't allow you to do the techniques that you otherwise would do. You can't put the top spin you want. You're not getting the same power on your swing that you normally would. So a paper can hold you back, but it's not going to elevate you the way that you would think. How long have you been doing art? Okay, I've been doing art since I've been probably 5 years old. Like I've said in previous videos, my memory of it at least is that I was using a pencil to make like weird stick men and trying to draw. I think before I actually learned how to write with a pencil, so maybe that speaks to my illiteracy a bit more than my artistic talent. But anyway, I guess I just was more interested in drawing than I was in words, maybe. I would say I've been taking my artistic improvement seriously since that age, since probably the age of 8. So I remember when I was 8 years old, I started drawing Dragon Ball Z characters, Pokemon characters, and I was really, even though I was only 8 years old, I remember taking this very seriously. My mindset was like, okay, this drawing has to be better than the previous drawing. I did it for fun still, but to me the fun part was like, how realistic can I make these Dragon Ball Z characters? And there came a time at about age 14 where I thought I had like maxed out my abilities in terms of drawing like anime and stuff. Like, obviously I hadn't, but at the time I thought like, okay, what would be that next level? What can I do that'd be even more impressive? And then I started seeing people draw faces on DeviantArt, and I just was like blown away that you could draw something like realistic, not just like a cartoon with pencil. So I just started drawing, and I drew Angelina Jolie as my first drawing, which looked not much like her at all, but you know, I didn't really care. I was pumped that I could even draw a face at all. I've been drawing faces since the age of 14, on and off. Now there's been periods of time where I've taken more time off to focus on school, or I was a little bit less disciplined when in my younger days. I didn't, you know, have the discipline to be consistent to a schedule of drawing, and I didn't see the value in it yet, or you know, it was just really just a hobby that I was passionate about that I really didn't take very seriously in terms of like consistency. Okay, I was drawing, you know, maybe 8 hours a day for a couple days, and then finish a drawing, and then maybe not touch a pencil again for months and months, if not years. So the longest break that I've ever taken from drawing has been just over 2 years, and I did that from 2016 to 2018. And 2018 is when I picked up a pencil again and started this Instagram page and my new art journey. So I've not looked back since, and will not be looking back again, other than to reminisce on how different it was back then to not be as consistent as I am now and doing, you know, all these things that I am now. How do you feel when your final work goes so worth it? I almost feel in a way like I've gained like a tolerance to this feeling over time. So initially, like when I started drawing again like 2 years ago, I would just be seeking, like trying to finish that drawing, you know, like trying to get that dopamine rush of like finishing a piece and getting the reward for it. But recently, in the last few months at least, like maybe the last 6 months or a year, I've started to realize that that's just one aspect of it. And in my opinion, you're not going to reach your true potential if you're treating that end result as the reward. So for me now, the reward is finding 2 hours to sit down to draw. It's very process oriented, and for me, being able to detach myself in a way from that final end result, or not putting a deadline on it and just focusing so much on the process, like did I draw at least an hour or two today? How many hours did I draw this week? Just finding different ways to really have fun in the moment with drawing, okay? To me, the biggest reward is when I'm having fun in that 2-hour session, whether I'm finding a new playlist or anything like that, okay? So paradoxically, focusing on the end goal is what's going to deter you from it ultimately. And I think, in my opinion, having process-driven task goals where you're breaking things down day by day, week by week, and setting a schedule for yourself, getting in proper habits is far more important than being focused just on that end goal. You know, ironically, it is focusing on those habits that get you to that end goal, I've come to realize, okay? So I keep that end goal in the back of my mind, and I'm focused on my daily habits. I used to like get like really excited and put like that completed drawing almost on a pedestal, in a sense, like just working for weeks and weeks just to get to that finish point. But when I finish a drawing now, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like I had just as much reward sitting down for 2 hours and finishing a helmet than I get for the last 2-hour session where I actually finished the drawing. That last moment where I'm putting my signature, you know, it feels pretty cool, and it's like, oh, I'm finishing another drawing. So that's what I mean in the sense that I've gained a tolerance to it, in a sense. That I don't need that dopamine rush from that completed piece. I get that dopamine reward mechanism from sitting down and enjoying a 2-hour session, and I know that in the future sometime it'll get done, and it doesn't matter when it gets done. Do you have any advice on how to finish a drawing when you're not happy with the progress? Well, I guess it depends on why you're not happy with it, okay? So you have to be honest with yourself. If you feel like it's not looking good and like there's nothing that you can do about it, then I guess sometimes it makes sense to just cut your losses. But like, I've only done this maybe a couple times ever where I felt like a drawing was not worth it to finish. You know, I'm maybe like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours into it, and I either have nowhere near the skill level that it's gonna require to do this piece, or I just all of a sudden hate the drawing. And that's only happened a couple times, and in that situation I've set it aside and never come back to it, and that's fine. But 99% of the time I'm pushing through this and finishing the piece, because if I'm disappointed with the progress so far, it's because I'm not happy with it yet. You just have to keep pushing. right? And that's, just think of what happened with my Rihanna drawing, where I literally sweat on the page and ruined a little section of the paper, right? I could have easily quit that drawing after 13 hours and that would have been justified, right? I could have started over, I could have started a different piece, but instead it was a great opportunity to come up with a way to salvage the drawing. And the fact that I didn't quit that drawing was such a valuable lesson for me, and even for some of you guys that were following along, to not quit on a drawing. And the fact that new lessons can spring out of these so-called mistakes, okay? So I was able to fill in that ripped piece of paper with some cracked doll effect, and that was probably my best drawing, and it's still one of my favorite drawings now. And it's because I didn't quit on it, I was able to do that. So I highly recommend just push through it, right? Like, you guys should not be quitting your drawings. As long as you're being honest with yourself that you are just not looking for an easy way out, you know, I think you need to just commit to finishing it, right? It's normal that you're gonna, like, you might think that it's normal to like the drawing from start to finish and feel good about it, but it's not. My personal best drawing, in my opinion, being Mike Tyson, how many times during those 92 hours of drawing do you think I was looking at that piece and being like, shit, what am I doing? This part sucks, or wow, this isn't gonna look good, or I don't know how to do this part. But you just commit to the process and don't give up on it, and it's going to look as good as it will look, assuming that you don't give up on it. So take that for what it is. Why do you make only hyperrealism sketches? I guess one of the big reasons why I was always attracted to photorealism was that I never really knew anything about art or gave a shit about anything to do with art, right? So like, and what I mean by that is, like, you know how you guys can see like some weird painting and it's like this masterpiece, but you're like, I don't get it, it's kind of, I don't get the appeal. Well, that's how I feel about a lot of art. I can't tell if something is this masterpiece or not. I don't care. But in my opinion, hyperrealism speaks to almost everyone, right? Like, I have a lot of friends that don't know anything about art and they don't care about art. But what they do know is that that drawing looks like a picture. So it must be really good, right? Like, you're fooling my eye completely right now and it looks like a friggin' HD photograph. And that speaks to someone very strongly, in the sense that they don't have to know anything about art to look at that drawing and just visualize how much work must have gone into that, right? The self-doubt, the hours, the struggle, just the skill set that must have gone into making that, right? You could take someone off the street that has never seen a drawing before or knows nothing about art and show them that, and it will speak to them in a way that some forms of abstract art won't necessarily speak to them, right? Like, you don't need to know anything about art for it to be able to speak to you. That's one of the main reasons why it was attractive to me, because I was one of those people that didn't care about that side of art. And second, I think that it almost allows me to see the world in a different way. So this might sound a little bit cheesy or something, but I find that when I look at things in everyday life, I almost can break them down into what they would look like as a drawing. Like, I'll see a table or a desk, or I'll see someone's face in real life, and I can observe different features of their face, or I can notice things about their face or the way the shadow hits their face, and immediately I'll kind of translate their real life face into a black and white image into my head, what their face would translate into a drawing, kind of, if that makes sense. Okay, so I think hyperrealism allows me to study the nature of the way reality looks to us, And I find that super interesting because I find like drawing realistically is not just about this skill of the skills and techniques of actually drawing. Maybe half of it is even just teaching your eyes and your brain to see what's there and actually filter out what is not there. An example would be like drawing hair. When you're like a kid or something and you're like, oh, draw hair. Oh, it's lines, because hair is lines. That's a shortcut that your brain attributed to hair. And when you study hyperrealism for long enough, you understand that the nature of hair isn't just individual lines, it's shapes and textures and tones. And I like studying the nature of the way reality appears to us, okay? And we can get into what's real and what's not, but that's a whole different topic. Anyway, that is it for today's Q&A. If you guys have any more questions that you would like to see answered in these videos, feel free to DM me your questions and I will be sure to include them in my next video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in that next video. Peace.